This is UFO Buster Radio. I am Manny Moonraker, and this is episode number 239 of the UFO News Report. Welcome back. Welcome back to some UFO news. I'm glad you're here. Today we have the continuing saga of the mixture of politics and UFOs. Isn't it crazy? Like, the more I look at it, the more I really am willing to concede that To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge, Elizondo, and all that FUBAR stuff. For those of you who don't know what FUBAR is, it is fucked up beyond all recognition. All that FUBAR they pulled 3 years ago really ignited a fire in getting mainstream folks like people who are known as Congress folks in the United States to get them to throw their hat into the UFO ring, if you will. They're not doing it because they really want to know. They're doing it because it's the in thing. They feel that in some way it's going to be the topic of conversation. I mean, hell, in the last election, it was being thrown around in the primaries, right? All the heavy hitters had to answer something about UFOs. And so maybe this time around, thanks to the Air Force and their new guidelines, thanks to the raid on Area 51, which may or may not happen, thanks to the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge, and the rest of the cronies, the corporate cronies, maybe this will be something that they can use politically, because that's really why they're doing it. They don't give two fucks about what the hell's in your skies. They are just worried about political gain. How are they going to stay in office? Well, shit, if the world is talking about this, why not make that part of my campaign? I mean, it's a good idea, isn't it? It's a good idea. As we would say up in the north, it's a good idea. Why not use it for political gain? Show the people that you care. That's what's happening. That really is what it is. And that's the news report for today. But before we get there, as always, make sure that you follow the podcast on the Twitters. By the way, thanks to everyone who's on the Twitters. There's been a bit of an uptick in people following the Twitters. Thank you very much. On Facebook, another uptick. Keep on following. The more people follow, the bigger the audience, the more we'll be able to maybe make some sense to somebody, right? Because, I mean, I'm not looking at this from the point of view that I publish 40 fucking books and I'm trying to get people to look at things my way. No. I'm not trying to sell documentaries or raise money for documentaries, which maybe one day I will. I'm not saying I'm doing that now. There really is no other drive for me to do this other than I just want to talk about it. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't sit around constantly reading, researching, and remembering every single UFO incident that happens. I really don't. It's just not what I do. I talk about the current stuff, because some of the other stuff has been, how can I say, man? They overdo it. They take the same incident and they look at it from 50 different angles, all kind of conspiracies, and we're still stuck with no answer. That's a whole lot of waste of life, to be honest. Life is short. If you're going to sit around and think about every goddamn UFO incident out there and every quadrillion conspiracy theory that comes out, every single angle, like you're some kind of supercomputer, you're pretty much fucked. You've just shit part of your life down the toilet. Because it's not going to get you anywhere. So when people put out these documents that they were rumored to exist from some guy in the 40s and the 50s, the 60s, who cares? It's 2019. We're heading to 2020. So who cares that they put out these documents way back when? It's not going to help me now. So somebody finally admits that they met with A, B, and C guy, and he knows the UFO guy. And the UFO guy tells him, hey, buddy, turns out it's not the government. The government paid a bunch of people in the private sector to take care of this. Oh, who cares? It's almost 2020 now. Those documents don't mean shit. In fact, let's be real clear about this. If they meant shit, there'd be an uprising right now. You'd be running around. Everyone be running around with their printed PDF copies, waving it in the air, lining up at the White House saying, see, we told you. But the documents don't mean shit other than getting more people involved in your podcast or getting involved in your UFO website, buying more books because you now have another document that you can add to your book and send out another edition on. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean shit, because if you believe in UFOs and if you believe that they emanate from somewhere 4.2 far, none of that should mean shit to you. That's all I'm saying. I know people get worked up about the stuff that I say, but fuck, it's elementary, my dear Betsy. It's elementary. You already know, just like you guys who believe in Christ. You know, right? If you know, you believe. Do you really need people to give you evidence? If you believe UFOs, you believe that in this massive universe, because we're talking about as massive, so massive that you really cannot, in your head, picture how massive it is, because it makes no fucking sense how big it is. But if you believe that it is absolutely impossible for there not to be life somewhere else, why do you need a PDF of a conversation from a few decades ago? You don't. You really don't. None of that should mean shit to anybody. Okay, throw it on your pile of evidence. Now, how big is that pile of evidence? It's extremely big. It's huge. It is hundreds of years of evidence. And if hundreds of years of evidence is not going to move the conversation forward, why would you get excited about one more piece of paper? If you know it, you know it. Pretty much. What most people should be waiting for is that one piece of evidence that would outweigh everything. And unfortunately for everyone, that is going to have to be physical, unrefutable evidence. Maybe during a probing, someone just rips off some alien skin, gets some alien blood. If you get abducted, take some of their equipment, something like that. Outside of that, forget about it. You're wasting your time. Let's get on to our news report. It appears that the bandwagon has more room for more people to say they want info. They want answers. They want to know. And shit, people have been saying that for years, but just because you're part of the legislative branch in the United States, I guess you have clout. You have the power to get the info. I guarantee you that this particular representative ain't going to get shit. Absolutely nothing. And barely anything more than everyone else gets. The title for this article, which came from Politico, was Republican Lawmaker Presses Navy on UFO Sightings. Well, first of all, he's wrong because they like to call them UAPs. So he is the top Republican on the House Homeland Security Committee. Yeah, and he wants to know what the hell these UAPs are about, or what's these UFOs, or why is it that according to documents, news reports, interviews, why is it that they don't know more about this? Really? Are you telling me that you are part of the legislative branch of the government and you don't know Dick? I bet Dick knows you. Yeah, and I'm not talking about Richard. There's a quote in here that says, based on pilot accounts, encounters with these UAPs often involved complex flight patterns and advanced maneuvering, which demand extreme advances in quantum mechanics, nuclear science, electromagnetics, and thermodynamics. According to Representative Mark Walker of North Carolina, who is the ranking member of the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Subcommittee. And apparently he wrote this to the Navy Secretary Richard Spencer in a recently released letter that was dated mid-July. And the letter continues, if the accounts are true, the unidentified crafts could possess a serious security risk to our military personnel and defense apparatus. How long did it take them to come up with that? When did that apple fall and hit him on the fucking head for him to realize that? Well, shit, anyone that knows anything about UFOs, anything about the history of UFO reporting, UFO incidents, especially around military bases, already knew that, Mr. Walker. But there might be an election coming up in his neck of the woods in North Carolina, so maybe, he's trying to get some of the folks in North Carolina to vote for him. Now, he's fairly new to a lot of this, political stuff, because according to what I found, he started office back in 2015, and most of the time spent his career in the Baptist church circles. So that's that's an interesting mix, to be honest. I wonder what the hell is it that he's getting to. He also says, while I am encouraged by the Navy's proactive decision to draft new guidelines for reporting, I am concerned these reports are not being fully investigated or understood. In other words, he says the Navy and Air Force are a bunch of dummies. And actually, that's what he sent to Spencer. That's a good way to make friends. I'm sure Richard Spencer will probably be a dick about it. Not the Richard. Walker apparently also was asking whether the Navy is aware if these things were coming from foreign nations or private companies. Now, private companies. It's funny because private companies are all over this UFO thing. You almost can't escape it. I mean, private corporations are involved in UFOs every which way but loose, and apparently way from the beginning. It's possible that our governments know that they may not have the skill set within their military branches in order to figure this UFO thing out. And so they go into the private sector. Nothing wrong with that, right? A bit less constraining, right? If you're in the government, you're in the military, you have to be reporting shit, you have to be recording shit. Corporations they're unscrupulous. They will do whatever the fuck they gotta do in order to get whatever the fuck they need. I mean, look at Deuce Bigelow, the space gigolo. He's a perfect example. But you look at any corporation, right? Any major corporation that's fucked up in the last 2-3 decades. They do whatever the fuck they need to do to get the job done. So why wouldn't a government go to a private agency to get it done? Makes perfect sense to me. So here's the thing. Our little representative here probably feels like he's making waves. He's probably doing it because he wants more people to support his next bid to stay in office or move up in the ranks. It's not going to help ufology. And really, you really would have to have your head in the ass to not have seen the things that have been going on in ufology over the last 2 decades. I mean, if you just woke up, you just fell off the turnip truck into the bandwagon, how the fuck can we trust you to do anything else? Because this thing has been in your face for a long time. People chose to ignore it on their own, just like he did. So now all of a sudden, because the Navy says, listen, Rep. The truth is that this is not the first time that the Air Force/Navy has been involved in the UFO thing. It's not the first time they looked into it. It's not the first time they researched it. Fuck, if you would have turned on the History Channel and looked at their Project Blue Book fucking series a few months ago, you would have been in the know. But you don't want to know because it wasn't important. But now it is. Now it's a big topic because shit's going, it's going ape shit. It's everywhere now. Facebook, everywhere. So now you got to pay attention. Well, it's a little bit too late. But this is what gets to me. This is the part of ufology that gets on my last nerve. People do it for their own personal gain. And you know what? Like I said, life is short. I'm sure that if you can make some money out of ufology, put some money in the coffers for a rainy day, fine, go ahead and do it. But, regurgitating shit over and over like people don't have any sense. That just makes no sense. I'm tired of seeing the quadrillion different angles to look at Rendlesham, look at Roswell, to look at... Come on, let's get over that. We've got a lot of new evidence, a lot of new things to talk about. And we're going to have people who are snake oil salesmen, like this representative, Mr. Walker here, who are going to use it to their benefit. But don't let that derail you. We all know, if you follow ufology, if you have the same theories, the same perspective on the topic, you know the only thing that's left is real live aliens, real live UFOs. That's all we need. Anything other than that, bullshit. Nobody gives a fuck. I just saw a post on UBR Truth Seeker. Somebody posted a video of a lady who, on her cam, security cam for her house, she caught what looked like an alien gray in her driveway. He looked like he was dancing, actually. I really didn't watch the video, because once I saw it, I was like, oh, fuck. Really? It looks like an alien gray. When was the last time you watched TV, lady? What the fuck does that look like? I don't know. Sometimes you can't write this stuff. You really can't. Some other news. The game is almost done. And I was looking at a way, and I mentioned on UBR Truth Seekers that I forgot to say how you as a listener will be able to take part of that $25 million abduction policy that I talked a few episodes ago about, because I think it's a great novelty thing, and I think it's cool, and I would love for some of my listeners to get in on that. The first way that you'll be able to is once the game is released in a few weeks, you will have to beat the game entirely through. You will have to beat that last rubber-dicking boss. You have to beat the last boss to get a special link to where you'll receive instructions of how you're going to win that policy. There is going to be a second way because unfortunately only half the listeners will be able to do that because the game is only going to be released on Android. So for you guys who are of the Apple mind, we have another way cooking for you guys in order to get that. And it won't be the game, sadly enough. But you might just have to do a little bit something just to show that you are part of the UFO Buster Radio family. But we'll get to that as soon as the game is released. I'll release that information also. But like I said, don't forget, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's where I'm at. I got a new song for the outro. It's called Every Battle because I feel like ufology, the blue-collar folks are losing every battle to corporate America, to any corporation, fuck just America, all over the place. And we're losing it to government dickheads who want to use this as a battle cry for their own careers. That's right, save me. Save me from this. Ciao.
No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, I'm losing every battle.